Okay. All right. I'll share my screen with you. So I'm going to be showing you a PPT. So like I told you in the last class, this is not going to be the case for all the classes, right? So which means you're not going to see a PPT and then a class or anything um, for every session. Um, this because, the topics that we need to deal with today are relatively a bit new for a few of you. So it makes sense to discuss this a little bit. And second thing is because, this is a beginning class. I mean, almost the first few classes. That's why. So not for all the topics do we see this. And people have joined today. Uh, just to give you a brief, this is like a practice session for the major topics that would be dealt with for the course on English 1. So not all the topics would be discussed, but the ones which we feel like requires a bit more of attention or explanation would be taken up as sessions for you. And the session happens every Monday between 5 to 6. Okay. We already had a session last week. We discussed a few things. Today, we're going to actually start off with what I was supposed to do in the last class, but nevertheless, let's start with this. Okay. Um, and additionally, you may keep posting your questions to the forum or the Google group that you are linked to. So timely, we try to address questions there as well. Okay, so these are few platforms that you have to raise your questions. And this one particularly is meant for the practice. Okay, so follow the video lectures. This session would be more useful to you if you come to this after having watched the lectures. If this is going to be the first hand that you're going to try, then the problem is you're going to have several basic level questions. This is while you can ask them, it won't be really useful for you because the flow of the practice is done with. So make sure that you at least go through the slides and the lectures before you come to the class, so that you have some sound knowledge before you come in here. Okay. All right. So let's start. We are going to be discussing this sounds of English basically. So vowels and consonants, long and short vowels, voicing, places, and manners of articulation, right? So these are the things. Basically, we're going to discuss the various classification under which all of these sounds. We have how many sounds in English language? 44, right? So we're going to be seeing where are all of these sounds placed, right? What are their features, so that when you have questions in the exam, which you will certainly have, you can relate with them in a better way. Okay. So are you all familiar with this um, figure that you see on screen? Yes. Yeah. So what is this? What do you call this? I mean, what is this representative of? It is, yeah, this is your oral cavity. And to be precise, what does this show? This basically shows the articulators involved in the speech production mechanism in human beings. That is, this is what lets you speak, right? What lets you speak? The exhalation of air through this vocal tract, through these cavities that you see here, right? This is what enables you to speak, enables you to speak, not just, I mean, speaking is a general term that you use, but if you look at it closely, you see that this enables you to make all those distinct sounds that you use while you speak, right? How does that happen is what this is going to talk about. Look at it on your left hand side, you have a list of articulators, right? Articulators, basically, the name suggests that this is what helps you articulate the sound. This is what helps you make that sound, right? That is what the meaning is. So, um, how many articulators? We are going to look at all of them. So, we have hard palate, alveolar ridge, lips, teeth, tongue, velum, larynx, vocal folds, glottis, and the uvula. Okay, like you see, larynx, vocal folds, and glottis, they're all located in the same area. So it's basically a regional, articulator, which is why you can't point out to all of them separately, like you see in the, the upper part. But they're all located within the same region: glottis, larynx, vocal folds, glottis. Now, my suggestion to you is, while you spend some time with this figure, is do not look at articulators like this, the way it is listed, like the way I read it out to you: heart, palate, alveolar, ridge, lips, teeth, tongue, velum. Why? Because when you're studying features of sounds, it is always better that you follow the path in which the air is either exhaled out, which means you'll have to begin from the back, right? You have to start from this portion, right? This is where you'll have to start in order to see the exhalation process. Either you do that or you begin from the front part. And what is the first thing that gets to you in the beginning? This one, right? Your lips. Your both lips are the place which you can begin from. So this is one option. Or you begin from the back. And when you begin from the back, the first thing that should come to you is this one, right? Velum, right? I did not say larynx, vocal folds, or glottis because it's a region, right? So there is no need of looking at it. Or maybe you can begin from there also. Okay, you can maybe think about it as, the air from the lungs being pushed out of your mouth. So there's a track that it would take. So obviously it is going to cross the larynx and the glottis and then go to the velum portion, and from there onwards to the palatal region, the alveolar ridge, the teeth, the lips, and out of the mouth, right? So this is also one way you can look at things. And alternatively, you can begin from the lips also, not a problem. I would suggest to go by the exhalation process, since that makes more sense for you to understand. But anyone is okay as long as you can follow that path correctly, okay? Why this is so? Because if this is the case, then you don't have to remember things, right? You just have to, all you have to do is just imagine how the air is exhaled out, or what happens as you start from the lips to the back of the region. What all comes in the way is easy for you to understand, rather than knowing them as a list of articulators, okay? So begin either at the back or in the front, doesn't matter, but do it in a sequential fashion, right? So if I start from here, of course, the air is pushed out, right, through, or rather the air passes or takes the path here. It crosses the larynx, the vocal folds, the glottis region. It reaches here, right, your pharyngeal cavity, and then goes to the oral cavity. And as it reaches the oral cavity, the first thing that it is going to see is velum, right? Now, this part is important for you because whether the air passes through your mouth or through your nose is decided based on whether your velum is raised or lowered. Okay, you might have heard about this in the lecture. Can you comment on this a little bit? If I may ask you, when do you find the velum lower? Or rather, if the velum is lowered, then from where do you think the air is passed? Any idea? Anything that you'll remember? Try to tell me about this a little bit. No? No idea? Okay, all right. Oh, someone has commented. Sorry, I was not looking at the oral cavity. No. Huh. So, Anurag, it's the other way around. Sorry, is somebody speaking?
Yeah, ma'am, if the velum is down, then the air passes through our nasal cavity.
True, right? So
Yeah.
when the velum is lowered, your air passes, the air that is exhaled, okay, in the process of exhalation, the air that is pushed out of your lungs, it actually passes through your nose, okay, when the velum is lowered, which means when the velum is lowered at that juncture, if the air passes through the nose, then you have what? You have a set of sounds called the nasal sounds. In English, you have three: ma, na, and ng. Okay, I'll talk to you about that when we look at the consonants part. So main three. There are other nasal sounds, of course. In our languages, we have more nasal sounds. But in English, you have just three: ma, na, and ng. Okay, ng is the sound that you hear in words like ring, sing, singer. Okay, so the last sound you hear in words like ring, sing, this is actually the ng sound, the third nasal sound in the English language, right? So these sounds are produced as the air is pushed out of the nasal cavity or the nose when the velum is lowered. When the velum is raised, it closes that path and the air is passed out of your mouth. And that is when you have all your oral sounds. So oral sounds will include all of the other articulators, okay, which is velum itself, right? So when you have, at the velum part of your mouth, when the air is obstructed, okay, as it flows out of your mouth, you have the velar sounds. Then after that, you have this part, the hard part, which is the roof of your tongue, right? That part is called the palatal region. Okay, you call it hard palate or palate, it's the same thing. You can call it the palatal region also. So after velum, you have the palatal region or the hard palate, and that is where you have your palatal sounds. After that, the next part you see here is the ridge, right? So this is your palatal region. Then comes your ridge. This pointed two things that you see, right? That is your teeth. And right behind that, you have this region, right? You can feel it using your tongue, the part, that hard part right above your teeth. That is your alveolar ridge. So if the air is constricted there, then you call them or basically you have the production of alveolar sounds, right? There are a number of alveolar sounds in English. We'll look at them as we look at the consonant chart. Then thereafter you have the teeth, right? So alveolar ridge and then the teeth. Teeth gives you the dental sounds, right? Then after that you have both of your lips, and lips would give you your bilabial sounds. Okay. So there's another set of sound which is not, or the articulator that is not mentioned, because both of those articulators are mentioned separately, teeth and lips. Teeth and lips can also work together to give you the labiodental sounds, right? I think a little bit of this we discussed in the last class. So yes, more or less these articulators are what help you in the production of speech sounds. And tongue definitely has a lot of role to play, especially in the production of vowel sounds, as well as this group of sounds called the approximants. Okay, approximants are basically l, r, and w. Okay, w as in the sound that is represented by the letter w, not v. W, right? The bilabial w. So that w, l, and r, these three sounds are also known as approximants. They basically means there is airflow on either side of your tongue, or the tongue is curled. There is some sort of activity involved with the tongue in the production of these sounds, approximants, right? And vowels generally, of course, we know that the position of your tongue, the height of your tongue, all determines the production of the quality of the vowel sounds also. Okay. So this is all you need to know about this diagram. One thing is the trajectory of the flow of air and what are the articulators that you see on the way, and about this part on velum, right? The velum is lowered, you have nasal sounds. Velum is raised, you have oral sounds, right? Okay, any questions from this part? All right. Okay, so we go ahead. Just let me check the messages also, because I'm teaching, I'm not looking at the messages. Just give me a moment. Okay, all right. So this is fine, I guess. We'll move on to the next one. This is a very important thing. It's called the vowel diagram. Okay, a vowel diagram, you don't have to learn. Somebody has been asking this in the last session. Should you learn these diagrams? You don't have to learn these diagrams, but again, probably the question asked was that, will I be asked to draw this diagram in the exam? You will not be, because that's not the nature of your exam. You don't get that kind of descriptive questions. However, it is important for you to understand this to answer the questions that would be asked in the exam, right? So, of course, no detailed understanding is required. All you need to understand is the positioning of your vowel sound. And trust me, you don't have to remember any of these things, right? It is not. If you are able to follow what we say, then all you have to do is, the moment you have the word, you just need to say the word to yourself slowly, and you can, and even the sound, okay? Forget about the word, even the sound. If you can say that to yourself silently, slowly, you will definitely understand, what is the articulator, whether it's a back vowel or a front vowel. As far as the vowel is concerned, we don't even ask you questions about this, as in, whether a given vowel is a front vowel or a back vowel or anything. We never ask any questions of that sort. With vowels, the only question usually asked are with regards to short and long vowels. So only the length of the vowel is what we usually consider for the examination and questions pertaining to that. But anyway, for further and better understanding of the vowel quality and the sounds by themselves, it's important we look at these descriptions. So this vowel diagram that you see, basically what you see on the screen is a representation of tongue. Okay, this is the positioning of the tongue. So that this structure that you see, this basically, it's supposed to represent the tongue. Okay. And on the top part, right, the front, central, back, you see front, central, back written, right? And on your left hand side, you see high, high, mid, and low. Now, before we begin talking about this, one thing I want to tell you is that you needn't learn any of these high, mid distinction. All you need to know is the mid distinction. So like on the top, you have front, central, back. On the side, you will just know the high, the mid, and the low vowels. So that intermediate distinction that they have drawn between high, mid, and low mid is not required. Okay. So just carefully listen to this. You have 20 vowels in English. Okay, if we are to take the count or the number, we have 20 vowel sounds in the English language, right? And out of that, you have 12 pure vowels. Somebody asked this question in the last class: what's the difference between a monophthong and a diphthong, right? So monophthongs are nothing but pure vowels. That is, they're singular vowel sounds. They don't have any, they're not contaminated or corrupted with any other sounds. They're the purest forms of the sounds, the vowel sounds. And why do we call them? So one might wonder why, the name pure vowel. Okay. Does it say that, does it mean that there are impure vowels also? No. The name pure vowels basically is assigned to show that these are basic sounds, right? These are basic sounds, and there is a chance that these sounds are found across languages. Or another interpretation is also that they are basic, hence formation of a word is impossible without these vowel sounds. Probably that's also the reason why some people wanted to call it the pure vowels. So that is the meaning of pure vowels. And the technical meaning, the domain meaning of what pure vowels, or for that matter, monophthongs, means is just one sound. Okay, pure vowels basically means just one vowel sound. Okay. Diphthongs, on the other hand, there is nothing impure or contamination or anything about, to speak so, nothing of that nature. It just means that there are two vowel sounds included in it. Diphthongs basically means two sounds. Okay, two vowel sounds to be more specific. So this is the basic distinction between both of them. You have more of monophthongs or pure vowels, which is 12 out of the 20, and the rest 8 are diphthongs, right? And the basic ones are actually the monophthongs, the pure vowels. English has 12 of them. Some other languages may have more than this, or a few other languages may have lesser than this. In English, you have 12, okay? So let's look at them now. The first distinction you see, that is under the front and the high column, right? So front, high, vowel. Front high vowel would be what? E, the short E and the long E. E and E, both of them are high and front vowels. Okay, so this is one part. Now, you see another distinction. There's another E right below there. That do you see? You see three sounds in that column. The third one that is given in the lower deck. This is something that is specific to English. However, for our course, we are not going to consider that one. We'll only look at the long and the short E. But because I'm talking about it, it's also my responsibility to tell you something about it. This sound, the third sound that you see in that lower deck, is basically found in words like happy, happy, right? So why is it distinct? Because it is not as prominently articulated, as not very clearly articulated like the other E and E. It's just like a quick sound, right? Uh, so English has the specific way of articulating the E sound, as in there are three ways of articulating it. One is E, one is E, which is the long vowel, and then E, as in words like happy. But for our course, in case you get a question about what is the short vowel found in, or let me change it. If you get a question like whether the vowel found the E at the end of the word happy is long or short, your answer is going to be short vowel. You don't have to think about anything else. So for our purpose, we are going to consider the short E as the vowel sound at the end of the word happy. We're not going to consider the third distinction that is actually drawn in English linguistics. Okay. Just to tell you, because that was included in the diagram, I wanted to give you an explanation for that. Otherwise, that would remain as a doubt. So that's all. So only E and E for our purpose. Okay. So long E and short E. You don't have to learn the phonetic scripts, right, for any of these sounds, whether vowels or consonants. But in case you're asked a long vowel, sometimes you may see this notation. I'm just going to leave that in the chat for you. So if, for example, you're asked, about long E, then you can have notations like this. One is this, okay, E followed by two colons, or I and I. Okay, the first one is I followed by the small letter I followed by colon. That also means long E. And the second way of also representing that is using two I's together. Okay, so double I, that is long E. This is the simplified, the second one is basically a simplified notation for people who don't understand phonetic chart. But either of this shall be used, if you find this in the exam, then both of them actually represent the long E. Okay. Only for this case, only in the case of long and the short distinction will you find the phonetic notation. We do not use phonetic notations for any other sounds because we are very well aware that you do not know this. And we don't expect you to learn it also. So only in the case of the long vowel, short vowel distinction, majorly for the three cardinal vowels, that is E, A, and U, we make this distinction. Otherwise, most of them are shown as, we try to represent it as much as, as much as possible based on the letters that you already can identify with rather than the phonetic script. So don't worry about that part. Don't have to think too much about the phonetic chart. Okay, forget about it. All right. So, guys, just give me 1 second. I need to message somebody. Actually, the problem is there are too many people waiting in line. And since I'm taking the class, I'm unable to let them all in. Let me just ask somebody to do that. Just give me 10 seconds. Okay, I think that's fine. I've already allowed all of them, I think. Oh, okay. Okay. So, right. So this was the first part that we discussed on. So E and E, they are high front vowels. Okay, now high front, what does it mean? Both of this mean this is related to the position of your tongue. Okay. Both of this is related to the position of your tongue. And front means it is usually formed in the front part of your mouth, which means uh, the frontal part, which includes your lips, teeth, and that region. So lips and teeth are not involved in the production of vowel sounds, but we are referring to that particular region, the front part of your mouth, right? So that is the place from where the sound originates. And high, this is related to the position of the tongue. The tongue is a bit raised, okay? It is raised as you produce the sounds E and E, okay? For that matter, even oo and oo, okay? Because they are also categorized as high vowels, but they are produced in the back of your mouth. E and E are from the front part, and oo are at the back part, but both of them are high vowels. That is, the tongue is a bit raised if you carefully, try to understand while these vowel sounds are produced. Okay. So that is a distinction. Now, this is very similar to your consonant distinction. Okay. In consonants also, there is both places and manner of articulation. So if you look at it in that sense, then front, central, back is basically about the place of articulation, the region, where this happens. And high, mid, and low will tell you exactly what position of your tongue is responsible for the production of that sounds. Okay, roughly, maybe not exactly. This is not like an exact explanation like you see in the case of consonants, but more or less you can do this comparative study, not a problem. Okay, this is just for the sake of understanding and learning, that's all. Okay, so that is one thing. So front and the back vowels. So front high vowel would be E and E, and oo and oo, the short and the long oo would be the back high vowel. Okay, so you have 4 of them now, short and the long oo, so 4 of them as of now. Now the next set, okay, the mid vowels. Mid vowels, all of the 4 sounds that you see in the mid portion, the central position. A, right? This one is A. This one is A. This is a special sound. Okay, I'll talk a little bit about it. Then this one is A. That is the long A. This is the short form, the one where I've pointed the cursor, right? This is your short form, and the long vowel for this one would be this. Okay, so this one is found in words. The short one is found in words like again, arise, sofa, teacher, right? So in again and arise, the first sound that you hear is basically this sound, where you see the cursor pointed. Okay, this is the only vowel sound which has a name, and the name is schwa. This is called a schwa sound. This is a very special kind of sound. You are not introduced to the concept of stress yet. It comes only later in the course. But for the time being, just remember, this is the sound. This is the only vowel sound which is unstressed. That is, what do we mean by stress? Stress basically means when you say that a particular syllable is stressed in a word, you basically are saying that part of the word is said a little more, it is said a bit louder and more in a more prominent way. Okay, it is said more in a louder fashion and in a lengthier fashion. That is what stress means. However, if you have the sound that is shva anywhere in the word, then ideally that syllable won't have the stress, because shwa by itself is an unstressed vowel. It does not have that quality of being able to be said louder or lengthier. It's a very, very, very improminent sort of a sound, vowel sound. Okay, and the longer version of that is this one, where the cursor is now pointed at. This is found in words like curd, earth, was. Okay, so you can do a comparison between again, earth, arise, curd. Just say, I think this I told you in the last class. You can do this comparison and you can understand how, both of them are actually the long and the short counterparts. Okay, so these are also mid vowels. And then another mid vowel that you have here is the back mid vowel, which is O. This one is found in words like cot, pot. Okay. So this is the sound. This is the mid back vowel sound in this case. So 4 of them. You have A, which is the front mid sound. Then you have and okay, the long and short counterparts, the central mid vowels, and then you have the back mid vowel, which is O, as in the word coat, pot. Okay. Then the last set you have here are the low vowels. Okay. 4 of them. The first one, low front vowel, would be this one. Okay. The cursor is pointed there, and the sound is A, as in the words cat. So K, A, and T. These are the sounds found in the words cat. Okay. Apple, right? So the word begins with the sound A, the low front vowel. So A, P, and L are the sounds that you hear in the word apple. Okay. So that is A, low front vowel. You don't have any central vowels here. And then you straight have the back vowels, the low back vowels, which are A, O, and A. So you have 2 long vowels in this, O and A. So O as found in words like daughter, Daughter, daughter. Okay. Or the word morning, right? A lot of people ask this question. Morning, there are 2 spellings for this, right? So, and they are both different. You have morning, which is Mourning, and you have morning, which is Morning. Although they sound very similar, they're actually not very similar. Even in the case of pronunciation, they are both different sounds, both different. And they are different because of the distinction of just one vowel sound there. Okay. So Morning has a long vowel, so it's morning. Okay. So that is a sound which is represented here. This one, right? This is long O. And this is a longer counterpart of this sound. Okay. This one, O, as in pot. Okay. And then another one is as in the word hut. Hut. H-U-T, hurt, not H-U-R-T. So if my word is hurt, then which vowel sound do you think would come in hurt? H-U-R-T. Hurt. 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 Which would be the vowel sound there?
Mid one.
It would be the mid one, right? The mid long vowel is the one that is going to be taken up there. Correct. But hut. So both the vowels have very different vowel qualities. I am saying it because it's been some time for me I've been looking at it for a while now. But for you, the exercises that you say these sounds slowly to yourself, you'll definitely feel and hear the distinction. It is impossible that you can't make sense of it. It's only because, you are, this is probably the first time, or you have had a very limited acquaintance with it, that you find it a little difficult. But spend a bit of a time with it, and you'll definitely be able to hear it. You certainly will be convinced that the vowel quality is different. So this one, and then O, which is the long vowel O, and then the long A, as you see in the words like father or car. Okay, C-A-R, car is car, father. Okay, last or a class, right? All of them have the long vowel A, right? So these are the 12 pure vowels or the monophthongs that you see in English language, right? E and E, U and U, A, O, A, O, and A. 12 vowel sounds. Okay. Anything? Any questions that you want to ask?
And we have to focus on the mid one, no? For example.
You don't have, sorry, you'll have to focus on all the vowel sounds. You will have questions from all of them. Why only mid one?
Okay.
No. That I see. What I meant is that that is usually a place where people go wrong, and since it has it's a little it's a little atypical of pure the vowel sounds to be not stressed. I thought it's better I tell you about it. That's all. It doesn't mean that others are unimportant. Of course, all of them will be asked for your exam. And more than, knowing them by name or anything, you must be able to identify them in a word that is given to you. That's all. So for that, you need to know how each of these sound like, right? For that, you can practice using the app that I suggested in the last class, right? Sounds Right, the British Council app. You can hear them for a couple of times, and not couple of times, definitely more than that. And you will be able to distinguish the sounds in the word. Won't be a big trouble. Okay. Now, this table that you see, this is giving you all the 12 vowel sounds, all of them distinctly. And it has just facilitated you with one example each with all of these words. Okay. I'll upload this PPT once we are done with this class, so it will be easier for you. Just go through this table, and my sincere suggestion to you is that you practice by choosing another 5 words or so. So like you have beat here, try to figure out 5 other words with the same vowel sound, so that you get some sort of practice. So you have 12 of them in all. So have at least 5 words each for each of the vowel sound. Same with consonants are not that problematic because they are not so difficult to identify and then practice and all that. But vowel sounds, since there are at least a few of them which have similar sound quality, it is better that you practice a little bit more. Okay. So you can use this as a template and then, write down another 5 words for each of these sounds until you get familiarized with it. 5 is just a suggestion. You can take as many as you want and do your practice. Okay. Okay, so this one also again, okay, in this table, you will have, this is a bit of a detailed one, talking about the height and the position and the length and all that. You can ignore all of these part, okay? You just focus on the vowel sounds here in the first column and the examples that you see in the last column, okay? This one is particularly important for you to understand the long and the short distinction, okay? So look at it for that. You can ignore all these mid ones, this height, position, length, roundedness. That classification for the time being you can avoid. You don't need it. Just focus more on the sounds. Okay, all right. So this is what I was telling you. This also has a chart which clearly distinguishes between the short and the long vowels. You have 5 set of them. Last class, somebody was asking, are these the only short vowels? So in English, you have 5 sets of them. E and E, U and U, A and A. These are called cardinal vowels because they're found in almost all languages. Then in English, you have additional 2 sets. One is the schwa and its longer version, right? And then O and O. So these are the 5 sets of long and short vowels in English. Okay, so this one will help you to know that as well. Now we move on to diphthongs. Okay, now diphthongs, like I told you, what are diphthongs? They are basically combination of 2 vowel sounds. Okay. Now about whether diphthongs are long or short. Okay, you don't consider them either long or short, let it be. Diphthongs are actually a different kind of sounds by themselves. Actually, the question of short and long doesn't arise much. However, some phoneticians would say that, they have qualities similar to that of long vowels. But this is a contested area, like not many people there. I mean, there are disagreements by which what I mean is there are disagreements between people. App name, app name is Sounds Right. Just left it here. Okay, so since there are disagreements and there are no solutions as of now, till date, Already checked it. So let's say that diphthongs are a different category of sounds, okay, which are produced when two vowel sounds combine with each other. Like when two consonant sounds combine with each other, you have the consonant cluster. Similarly, when two vowel sounds combine, you have the diphthongs. Okay, so we treat them as a separate class of sounds rather than talking about them as long vowel or short vowel. So we'll not look at it that way. Let it be. Diphthongs are simply combination of two vowel sounds. We have 8 of them in English language, right? They are all listed here. Centering, closing, this part, I will not suggest you to. This is only meant for people who want to look at it in detail. For your knowledge, you just need to know what are the diphthongs. Okay, that's all. Don't have to look at anything more. They basically just talk about the diphthongs that end in a sound, e sound, and oo sound. That's all they mean. Okay, so what are the first few sounds? The ones that end in a, ear, ooer, and ear. So the first one is ear, as in the word hear. So her, e and a. The diphthongs e and a are the one that you have in the word hear, H-E-R-E. Okay, so ear is the first sound. Then comes ooer. Okay, as in the word poor, poor. Okay, or even the word which is the most common one asked in the exams, I think, tour, T-O-U-R, the one which you and I say as tour is actually tour. So there's ter and then the ur diphthong in that sound. Okay, so P-O-U-R is also not pour. A lot of people would say pour, but it is actually pour. And T-O-U-R is also what? It is tour, not tour. Okay, so that's the second diphthong. And then the third one is a, as in the words share, share. Okay. Now the next set is the ones that end in E, the E sound. So A, I, oi. A as in day. It's not day, it is day. Okay, day, day. The A and E, day. So that's the first one with the first diphthong sound ending in E, A. Second is I, prize, rise. Okay. So that's the second one. R and E, I. Then O and E, that is oi, as in boy, toy. Okay. The last two are the ones that end in the vowel sound oo. So O, ow. So O is again, a very confusing diphthong. Usually this diphthong is found in words which have the letter O in their spelling. Okay, look at the example given there, B-O-A-T. How do you usually say this word? Boat. But what's the actual pronunciation? Boat. Same applies to the word that you were asking in the forum, home. Right? H-O-M-E. A lot of people are asking, shouldn't it be long vowel? No. This is basically a diphthong there. Okay, so home. Watch out for words with O in their spelling, the letter O in their spelling. Please double check before you mark it as O. I already told you the traditional O sound that you see in our languages is absent in English. They don't have the O sound. They have O and O. And then what they have is the O sound. The O sound, that is diphthong. And O. O. So boat, flow, home, go, right? They all have this sound, not O. Okay. Now, and the last one here that ends with O is the ow. A and oo, ow. So south, house, mouse. These are all examples of words with the ow sound. So total 8, right? 8 diphthongs: ear, oor, air, a, I, oi, o, and ow. Okay. So just look at them and have examples ready for each of this so that, you don't go wrong with this. Um, One thing that I can tell you as an activity, just in order to understand, if, every time you find a diphthong sound in the word, no, just look closely at the spellings of those words. Okay, just do this activity and tell me if you see any pattern emerging. Like I told you, one with O sound, right? Sorry, O letter in the word, right? So similarly, try to see if you can do that with A, for example, right? So I can tell you table, Table. Basically, that also has a diphthong. Table, not table, right? Table. So try to see if you can derive some pattern. Like look at the spellings of these words and then see if you can derive some pattern. Okay, I will tell you this later, but right now I want you to do this on your own also. If I tell you everything, you won't remember. So try and deduce a pattern. You will understand it better. Okay, cool. Can we go to the consonants? I want to leave you with at least having discussed about this. This is the last one. Won't take much time, but I want you to take you through each of this distinction. Are you good with what we discussed till now? Any questions or doubts you have? Yes, no? Okay, silence is usually taken as yes. I mean, no doubts. Okay. Okay, thank you. Some of you have replied. I am just going to assume that you have understood. If you have not, then of course you have. I've mentioned all the platforms where you can raise your questions. Okay, so we begin with the consonant sound distinction. Okay, now we already know this. On your left-hand side column, the distinctions that you see, these are all what? These are places of articulation. That is, that exact point in your oral cavity where the air was restricted or obstructed to enable the production of that sound, right? So what is this? All of these that you see on your left-hand column is this, the first diagram that you saw, articulators, right? This one. This is what? All of this that you see here, all these articulators are the ones that are arranged on your left-hand side column of this chart, okay? And on the top, this part is basically the region. Okay, sorry, the manner of articulation. That is, how was that part basically tells you about how was the air, the flow of the air while it was pushed out of the mouth. Okay, so on the left-hand side, it basically tells you where was the air restricted in the cavity, in the oral cavity. And the top row, it tells you about how did the air flow out of the mouth. Okay, what was the air like, or how was the movement of the air while it was exhaled out of the mouth, right? So based on that, you have 5 distinctions, right? One is the stop, fricative, affricative, nasal, and approximant. The detailed IPA chart will have more columns, more of these distinctions on for the top row. But for our class, we're only concerned with the 5 distinctions of stop, fricative, affricative, nasal, and approximate. What is stop? Stop is when, your air flows out of the trachea, passes your vocal cords, reaches your mouth, and is obstructed within the oral cavity for some time and is released with a force. Okay, the whole of the air is captured in the oral cavity and then it is released with a force. Okay, so say sounds like p, b, m. It looks like you have held that air and then you have suddenly opened it out to be released, right? So there's another word used for it. It's also called plosives. Okay, stops are also called as plosives because of this. Okay, this is a sudden expulsion of air after having held it for a while. So this is the manner in which the air flows, okay, for stops. Fricatives, there is a friction. Now look at what are fricatives, right? P, v, t, the, s, z, sh, j, and h. When you say these sounds to yourself, don't you feel a friction, right? The air is articulated is obstructed at the labiodental position, the dental position, at the alveolar ridge, the palate, everywhere after the obstruction, the air is released slowly And while that happens, there's a friction between, and the friction can happen at various of these articulated regions, right? But there's a friction involved. It's not like plosives where you hold it and then you suddenly release it. The air is released slowly with the friction in case of fricative. Okay. So that is why we call them the fricatives. Okay. Understood? Any questions that you want to ask? I timely keep asking you this so that you don't find it difficult while you're revising and all that. Anything at this point?
Ma'am, please repeat, ma'am. Fricative, ma'am.
Fricative, the release of air happens only after a friction. Okay, it is unlikely in the case of plosives to happen there. Okay, one easy thing that I can tell you is say these sounds to yourself, right? So fricatives are f, v, th, the and all that. Just choose one or two of that sound. Take that and also choose the p and b, the stops. Say these sounds to yourself silently. I mean, not loudly on the call, but just say that to yourself and see how it is done. Do you see a difference? So when you say f, what happens? When your air is released, right? You see that there's a friction and the air is released through a very narrow opening, right? F, v. But is that the case with p or b? P, b. Right? In the case of stops, you basically hold that air and then you suddenly release that. Almost like an explosion, right? But in the case of fricatives, that's not the case. Okay, the exact way is that there's a friction in your breath and the air is released through that narrow opening. Right? P, v, th, s, z. Yeah, these things, no, there's a limit to explaining this. This is something that you have to say to yourself and you have to experience it. I'm limited with the vocabulary I have. I can just say friction, narrow opening, slow release, and explosion and all that, right? Beyond that, I can't say anything. So demonstration is one that I can do, but then you also have to say this to yourself and experience it. Do you agree or not? Right? Whether you agree or not, you have to do this
ma'am.
practice on your own. No? So you feel it. Like this is exactly like exhalation of air. I can only say exhalation, right? I can't demonstrate it to you. Feel it. Do it yourself and see what the trajectory is. Similarly, say the sounds to yourself and see whether what is being told to you is right or not. That you can do. You can verify whether what is being told to you is right or wrong. Okay. Okay. So. Right. Now, in case of affricatives, right? Affricatives again a little tricky, but you will if you say the sounds ch and j. It follows the same process like the fricative sounds, like there is a friction while there's a production of this sound. However, these sounds don't let the air completely leave out of your mouth. Say ch and j to yourself. Ch, j. Say f, just hold your palm in front of your mouth. Okay. Say f, v, and then say ch and j. Ch, j, f, v. Say all these four sounds. And tell me when you say ch and j, do you feel a lot of air being expelled out? Ch, j?
No, ma'am.
No. Right? Which is why the name affricative. Okay. There is a friction involved. But although that is the case, the air release is not too much. Very little air is released while you say these words. So this is the manner in which the air flows during the production of affricative sound. Okay. So that's why the name affricative. Usually, why this is because usually if there is a friction when the air is released, there should be some sort of turbulence, or otherwise there should be a lot of air that is released. But since that is not the case with ch and j, but at the same time it is also it also involves a sort of friction in the production. They've named it affricative. Okay. So that is one thing. Then nasal sounds, I already told you. How is it produced? The velum has to be raised or lowered? Lowered,
Lower.
right? The velum has to be lowered so that the air can pass through the nasal cavity. So you have ma, na, nga. This is the one that I was talking about. This is the nga sound. As you hear in words like ring, sing. The last sound in the word ring, sing or singer, okay? In singer, it is in the mid position, singer, sa, e, nga, and the shwa sound. So all those are this particular sound. It's a distinct sound in English. This is not a combination of the na and the ga sound. Okay, some people would tell you that, but that's wrong. This is a very distinct sound in English. It's a distinct sound by itself, not a combination of na and ga. In writing, while you write it in letter, probably that is how it is represented. However, this is on its own a distinct sound. So ma, na, and nga, these are nasal sounds. Then you have approximants. I told you about this. Approximants basically are, they're more dependent on the tongue for their production. That is, there is a free flow of air all around the tongue in the production of these sounds. So try and say la, ra, and va to yourself. You see that there's a lot of, spatial allowance around the tongue as you say these words. Okay, so la, ra, and va. The air is allowed almost a free flow in the oral cavity when you say, when you articulate these sounds, la, ra, va, right? Almost vowel-like. Like when you say the vowel sounds, again, there's a free flow of air. Similar to that, you see a sort of vowel-like quality, which is why also, out of the ones that you see here, va, the sound va, it is also what we call it as the semi-vowel also. Okay, it is a consonant for sure, but its production has some sort of vowel-like quality, which is why it is referred to as semi-vowel. And even the other two share these qualities, right? So approximants. Just remember, in approximants, you have more, free flow of air. Okay, there are other explanations and elaborations for this, but I think this one is a better version to understand the sounds than the other one. Okay, all right. So that is your manner of articulation: stop, fricative, affricative, nasal, approximant. I explained this one because this is the part which is a little difficult for people to follow. The places of articulation is comparatively easier. It's not very tough to understand that. So like bilabial involves the use of both your upper and lower lips. Pa, ba, ma, v. Right? All of them, both your upper and lower lips. Labiodental, your safe and va, your upper teeth and your lower lips. Yeah? The upper teeth almost touches your lower, the behind of your lower lips. F and v. Right? Labiodental. Dental, teeth, right? So th and the, so your teeth doesn't, your both upper and lower teeth doesn't touch each other. They almost touch, but because of the friction and the air release, there's no touch, but it almost is in the position of touch with each other. Th and the, okay? Th and the. Then comes alveolar sounds, which is when the air is restricted at the alveolar ridge, the hard part above your teeth. So, lot of sounds there. Ch, d, s, th, n, l, and r. So, l and r, along with being approximants, it's also an alveolar sound, right? Then, palatal sound, the hard part above your tongue, right? Roof of your tongue, that is your palate, palatal region. So, palatal sounds are sh, j. Okay, now this sound that you see here, again, you don't have to know the symbolic representation, but the sound is very, very specific to the English language. You don't find this sound in other languages. This one is very specific to the English language, as in the words pleasure, measure, leisure. Okay, it's not sure. Pleasure does not have the sound sure as in ship. Okay, that sound is and it's a very distinct sound only found in the English language. So that is the sound. Sh. The first one is sh as in ship. The second one is j as in pleasure. Prestige, not prestige, prestige. Then comes ch and j, very familiar to us. We know these sounds. Then the approximant year. Oh, sorry, I forgot talking about year also. In approximants, you have year also along with v, l, and r. Year and v, again, you know they are semivowels too. So year is also a palatal sound. Then velar sounds, three of them, k, g, and ng. Okay, k and g also stops. Last one, glottal sound, h. Okay, straight from your glottis or the vocal cord region. H. These are the consonant sounds that you find in English language. Okay, just go through and practice these chart. Okay, just once in a while, take a look at it. And also now, similar to the list for vowels, we also have a list for the consonant sounds. So this is also collated so that, you know, it becomes easy for you to check with all the sounds properly. Okay. So take cue from this one and have at least one or two words prepared for the consonants as well. It will help you understand the words better. Now, the last one here I have is voiced and unvoiced sounds, or for unvoiced, you can also, you know, some people would use the word voiceless. Okay, instead of unvoiced, they would say voiceless. Both are same. Both mean the same. Whether they say unvoiced or voiceless, it's the same thing. Now, voice is what? When you say a sound is voiced, it basically means that in the production of that sound, there is an additional vibration in your vocal cord. Just wrap your hand around the neck region and say to yourself the sound p and b. Okay, you will feel that when you say b, there is an additional sort of an extra vibration as you say the sound b, p, b. Okay, you can feel the vibration. So this additional vibration caused in the vocal cords is in linguistics coded as voicing. So which is why all the sounds that you see on the second column, b, j, v, z, g, d, then the and j, all of them, because of the presence of this vibration in them, we call them the voiced sounds. Okay. You will see that they're in pairs. So like in every pair, so first one is the bilabial one. So among p and b, one is voiced, the other is unvoiced. Second is ch and j. Okay, ch and j, what is it? It is palatal. So in the palatal sounds, again, you have one voice and the other unvoiced. F and v labiodental, again, in the pair, you have one voiced and the other one unvoiced. Then s, z. This is what alveolar. So, sa, alveolar, ga, ga, velar, tada again alveolar, ta and the dental, sh and j again palatal. So, all of among each of these pairs, so similar sounding pairs, you have one which is voiced and the other which is voiceless. Okay. So, that's all about the voiced and the voiceless distinction. Somebody to.
6 to
Yeah, people who
7
want to leave the class,
hours.
please leave. I see that you have another class schedule. Please do. No problem. Okay, so this is the voiced and the voiceless distinction. In fact, I also have another class. I think it's time I also leave. Okay, so that is all on the distinction. So anything more that you want to ask or any explanation required, please let me know. And you can write to the forum. So I will try to answer the questions there. And this one I will upload, ask them to upload it so that you can go through them. Okay. All right. Then I'll see you next week. There are a few messages, but platform, you must be added to some Google group or some forum, Kanha. I am not exactly aware of what that is. So please check with your mates and figure out what that is. Okay. I also don't have any links to it as of now to give it to you. Please check it with others and join the group. Okay.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, yes.
Ma'am, can you pronounce your name and tell what kind of monophthongs present in your name?
In my name? My name
Yeah.
has only two vowel sounds, E and A. And one is a short vowel and the other is a long vowel. The last one is a long vowel. And the first one is a short vowel.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay?
Okay.
You can do that with your names also. Good method to learn. Okay, so thank you all of you for joining. Please keep checking that supplementary tab section of your course. All of this materials will be uploaded there. Next week, we'll practice with these sounds. I'll have an activity sheet so that it's a little clearer for you. And we'll discuss other topics as well. Okay? Okay. So see you next week. Thank you so much for joining in.
Thanks, ma'am.
Meanwhile, if you have any doubts, thank you so much. Please write to the
Thanks,
forum.
ma'am.
Okay? Okay. See you, everyone.
Yeah.
Bye.